subject ever taught in all humanity. The main goal is to get people interested and engaged, and then maybe as a secondary goal, provide them with some basic knowledge and understanding and skills. But to me, that's a distant second. The first job is always to get people engaged so they want to get the basic knowledge and skills and then progress into the major or the field or whatever it is. So I'm actually quite amazed that, given it's the 21st century, that every college campus isn't striving to have the most awesome introductory courses in an effort to capture as many incoming freshmen as possible. Again, it's always kind of been my approach is if you're really passionate about your field and you want to get students engaged and get them passionate about it, you got to do that early so that they have their college career and their life to keep going forward. And I just always want to create the best intro courses possible, so more people be like, "Whoa, that's cool. I want to do that." And it seems it's a weird academic climate that we're in right now at the beginning of the 21st century. It actually seems that at a lot of universities and a lot of majors, they actively discourage that. They want the intro classes to be weed out classes, and that's just the mentality I can't even wrap my head around. I'm like, you want people to not be interested in your field? Okay, I guess that's one approach that I do not support in any way, shape, or form. So your question was, does getting people fired up work for all classes or engaging them in the real world? Certainly in all intro courses. However, I would also make the argument that it would apply across all courses, even upper echelon, 4,000 or 5,000 level or master's degree seeking courses, because I just think that throughout history, the academia, the university. Hold on, I gotta show you my prop. The university has gotten a little too far removed from real life, which is fine for lots of good reasons. The academia has kept itself a little separate from society to be able to explore new ideas and think about things without having to worry about politics or business. I respect that, but I believe right now the pendulum has swung too far. And there's this idea that, no, if you do anything of practical value, then it's bad in academia. And it's like, whoa, come on now. This whole environment's all about exchanging ideas and making people smarter and all that good stuff. But what do you do all that good stuff for? It's to make the world a better place or prepare people for jobs or whatever, fill in the blank. But all of that stuff happens in the real world. So I think that incorporating current events, even if it's current events, say like talking to the top scientist in your field, whether it's engineering or biology or interior design, wouldn't you want to incorporate the newest ideas from the real world and real people into the college classroom of any academic level to get people excited and be like, whoa, okay, all right, well, here's the way that we're learning all this stuff in interior design. And now let's talk to some people in the field. This is how it's actually being applied in the real world. Or here's this current event about, politics take on genetic cloning, and that affects scientists in the real world. So to me, I always want to push at all levels incorporating the real world into the college classroom.
Okay, excellent. That was a great first answer. So, I mean, there are a lot of things that you pointed out that I never even really thought about intro courses like that, but even in my own experience, I've noticed, I took a lot of science courses at William & Mary, and I enjoyed science before college, and then I didn't enjoy it. And it wasn't a factor of not doing well. I think I've always been motivated to do well in school, but I've never been motivated to learn. It's this weird dichotomy but the reality is when I've focused just on the learning, my grades usually reflect that.
Of course.
So it just seems like we're, even through high school, our public education system is designed to focus so much on the goal versus the process of getting to that goal.
Oh, absolutely. High school's almost become, to me, laughable. I mean, to me, it's a holding ground. It's a 4-year holding ground for people who basically know how to read and write and do math. Hopefully they do. They can do that. And then what do you do in high school? You kind of dabble with some of that stuff a little and hang out for 4 years. You're not really an adult, so it's like, well, we're just gonna let you hang out here until you go to college. I don't get it at all. But to me, it's really becoming a philosophical divide in our country. Maybe the world with education, but certainly in our country, the philosophical divide is, yeah, people like me, and I think there's a lot of people like me who say, look, the main goal of teaching is to get people energized, engaged, and want to be lifelong learners. That's the primary goal. And there's others who say, no, we need standards, we need tests, and everybody needs to have this certain, these knowledge fields that we're going to test in order to become well-rounded citizens or some such nonsense. I have no idea what the ultimate goal of that is, but that is the prevailing theory, of course, in today's society is we need all these standards and tests so that we can prove that people did something. We don't really care if they're that passionate about learning.
Okay. So would you then be supportive of general education requirements?
Yeah, I guess I kind of am. But I would be 100% supportive of it if the primary goal of all intro courses was to get people energized. Yeah, I'm not. It's actually the two philosophies I just spoke of are in competition with each other here, even in higher ed. And so there's people like us, me, that are saying, oh, yeah, we need to have this general ed because we want people to experience other fields and be thinking critically about interior design and biology and engineering. And then there's those that say, okay, well, it's fine. Well, then we just have to teach a standardized intro to music and make everybody take it. And it's like, see, that's self-defeating in and of itself. So you really have to have the whole university or the whole system on the same page for something like that to work. So we have this general ed stuff, and we're like, yes, we should all be well-rounded. But we're going to teach them so crappy that no one really, that most people come out of intro to music not ever wanting to touch or see it again.
Okay. What would you say then is the biggest barrier? I know you talked a little bit about the trying to distance themselves from society in terms of the culture of academia. What is another barrier?
That's where the whole concept of the ivory tower comes from. Oh, they're so special up there, and they're untouchable, and they're above all this fray of real life. And I just think that's become nonsense in today's world. I understand how it evolved. I get it. In times past, you would always want the kind of isolated academia that couldn't be touched by society, who didn't have to bow to the whims of a political party or a particular leader, or couldn't be punished by the clergy, let's say, 1,000 years ago, if you said that the earth went around the sun and not vice versa. So I understand historically why it's evolved that way. I just don't see that need in today's world. I mean, can you think of the last time you even heard of a story where tenure actually protected somebody for its original use, which is to be able to express free speech and maybe radical ideas? I've heard of it maybe 2 or 3 times in my 20 years in higher ed, and it's mostly been people who are absolutely whack-ass crazy radical. And so they truly are so fringe. You're like, yeah, you need tenure because otherwise you've been fired because you're nuts. And so the system is now protecting such fringe elements as to almost be a negative as a whole. And it also allows for people just to kind of hang out. So you're protected not for free speech because you have such radical ideas. Mostly you're protected from having to work. And protected from having to actually produce any results. And I don't mean that in a negative light as a whole. The overwhelming people in academia work really hard, and they're passionate about what they do. I'm talking like maybe 10, maybe 20% of people who consider this a great career choice because you get summers off and you can't be fired. I think that percentage has grown over the years. And I just don't see where the tenure system and the ivory tower whole theory is that we all need to be separate in order to protect ourselves. I just don't see that in the modern world. Maybe because I'm young and clueless, but I haven't seen it in practice enough that it's actually helped people, that it's actually made ideas progress, that it's pushed people to do more original content work. Because the people I know that are most passionate would do what they're going to do no matter what, even if they're going to get fired. Myself included, I don't even have tenure. I'm not even a part of that system. And I'm going to do is what I think is right, and I'm going to push it as hard as I can and test new models and challenge people even when it's not politically correct. And if I get fired, well, that's such is life. You'll go on to something else, somewhere else. I don't know that this really answers your question. I'm just kind of ranting now.
No,
But
I mean this is all interesting information that I find useful personally, but I
yeah,
think also students will find useful.
I think so. I hope so, because I really am torn about the whole concept of tenure. I think it's maybe time to reevaluate it in its entirety. And this gets back to your question of what can we do to perhaps change this culture. I think the whole idea of tenure needs to be reassessed, and people are doing this. Universities across the country are doing this, uh, and this whole idea of being separate from society is already being challenged. And there's tons of programs and individual professors who incorporate the real world in and have, not just study abroads, but internships as a major part of their curriculum. So I think we're starting to move in that direction already, incrementally, depending on what university you're at.
Okay, that seems to be encouraging.
I think so. I mean, especially given the cost of higher ed, it's really getting to a point of being preposterous that you're going to say, oh, this group of people over here, they're separate from society because their minds need to be so open to do something. And it's like, can't we do that no matter where you're at? I don't buy that. And then you're going to say, oh, and it's going to cost you $50,000 a year to go hang out with those people. It doesn't make any sense anymore unless you're offering, the university's system is offering something more. Because it used to be that people went to college to get access to the professors and research that's cutting edge and new, because that's where the knowledge was. That's where new knowledge was being created, and that's where old knowledge was presented. And so this was kind of an exclusive system. You go to college to get stuff you can't get anywhere else. Is that true in today's world? We had this little thing called the internet that got invented a few decades back. And so coming to a university setting and paying a bunch of money in order to get content is done. That's laughable. To get data, you can go anywhere. Data is free now. It's so accessible. We have more data than ever before. We have more knowledge than ever before. There's a billion trillion books on a billion trillion subjects. You don't have to go to the university to get special knowledge anymore. So the university, and this is actually kind of tying back to your last question, the best universities of the future are going to figure out, okay, what is the value added to this experience then? And it's a great experience. Let me be the first to stand up for the great value of the university, which is, I believe we need it. And I want every American to go to the university. This is where you diversify. This is where you liberate your mind, not get liberal, but liberate your mind, a place you're sheltered for a while from real life so that you can think more deeply, more critically, and challenge yourself and bump into new topics and bump into new people who think differently from you. That's what this whole education thing is really all about. And I was talking with some really smart people not that long ago about this, some entrepreneur types. And we were talking about, businesses try to cultivate this environment where people feel free to come in and bounce ideas off of each other. That's what the university is. This is a 4 to 6 year hangout place where you bump into new people who think different ways and you bounce ideas. It's what we call kind of happy collisions. This is an area, the physical brick and mortar university and the campus is an area for happy collisions that you get experience something you would not have experienced in your life. It would not have happened. You would not have met someone from Kenya. You would not have taken an intro to, electronic theory. I mean, this is where you do that in life so that you can not just lead a richer life, but hopefully you find what you're passionate about and something you're really good at. I mean, that's what the system is all about. And building community and having that vibrancy of, yes, having a little fun and going to football games. That's what higher ed is really here for. Not just here's some stuff written down, read this. It's like, I can do that without paying $50,000 a year. So to wrap this up where I started, the best universities of the future already know what it is that they do special and what services they're providing. Plumbing and heating and food. What real enrichment are you going to provide your students in order for them to say, yes, that was worth $20,000 a year?
Okay, that makes complete sense to me. So what would you say then, particularly about Virginia Tech, makes it unique?
The Virginia Tech's really awesome, and I'm not saying that because I'm here. It's really awesome that it does an amazing job of building community, back to what I was just talking about. I mean, people, I know every major university everywhere, especially if they have a football team, there's a certain rallying element to that. But boy, I've just been all over the world now, and something about this university brings out the best of community element with people, and they stick with it for a life. I mean, that's what alumni do, and I'm sure Harvard alumni, they're all, they have their little country club setting and give millions back to the university. But the Virginia Tech community is like, they're not all billionaires, and there's nobody that's a snob about it. People genuinely have this camaraderie. That's, again, every university has this, but Virginia Tech has it really, really deep. Really deep. You run into somebody on the other side of the planet, somehow you'll bump into a Hokie somewhere, and it's like, dude, come on, let's go party. Come over to my house, meet my family. It's like, oh, okay, cool. So Tech does community really well. The football team thing probably helps, but it's deeper than that. It's a really good campus, probably because of its geography. It's semi-isolated from, say, a big city element. There's different campus geographies, and so a lot of universities are in cities. Most of the major universities are in cities. Actually, William & Mary is very similar to Blacksburg. There's like nothing else around there. No offense to
just tourists in Colonial Williamsburg.
Yes, and you can do that one weekend and then you're done, but you're there for 4 more years. So Virginia Tech and William & Mary are in a very similar geographic boat in that you have a tighter sense of community because it focuses. The university life is focused on the campus because there ain't anything anywhere else. I didn't really understand this because I grew up around here. So I'm like, yeah, Virginia Tech, or even William & Mary. I'm from Virginia. It's like, yeah, they're small towns, and they're kind of boring. But what I learned over the course of teaching in the last couple decades is that, especially Europeans, foreign students, if they're from big cities, but most Europeans love coming to Virginia Tech. And I would say, dudes, how can you guys love it here? There's like nothing to do. You're from like London or Hamburg or Berlin or Rome, and you think this is a good campus? And it's just, it's a difference of how you grew up. And all the foreign students say, oh my God, no, this is awesome. Because back home, anywhere in Europe, basically, college is something that you just live, in your apartment or your parents' place, and you just commute to go to your class in a random building, and then you go home, and then you go the next day and you go take a test, and then you go home. And I never really thought about that. I'm like, oh yeah, those don't really build community like a lot of American universities do, specifically, say, William & Mary and Virginia Tech.
Okay. So focus on community. It seems like that's the trend.
I think so.
Creating that unique community for each college, university.
Yeah. And we have great, beautiful physical setting, physical geography. I mean, I could have waxed poetic about all that stuff, too, in the mountains and hiking and biking. I mean, Blacksburg and the surrounding area keeps getting voted as, top 10 places to live for families, and all sorts of accolades like that, which are kind of trivial, but they build into the system of, wow, this is actually a really cool place to hang out. And there's all these activities here on campus that pull people together for them to meet because there ain't nothing anywhere else. So again, it keeps focusing in on and internally building community.
Okay. You can choose between these two topics. So the first one, I'm definitely interested in this.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come up with the Plaid Avenger? And then the second topic is, I read your research article, collaborated with 3 other professors about large classes, undergrad using e-learning strategies. What is an e-learning strategy, specific to the technology?
Well, what was this article that I supposedly wrote?
It said, I just forgot the,
excuse me.
I should pull it up right now. If I can find it.
My name has gotten attached to several things because they use my classes for data compilation, doing surveys and stuff on.
They probably use,
I'm just being honest. I did not write anything on.
Okay. Well, it was basically just saying that undergraduate classes are large, but that doesn't mean they have to feel isolated, and the use of technology can facilitate that process better than what we use today.
Yeah, and that I might have participated some in that then. At least I'm sure they interviewed me, because that's one of the things that I do try to do as well as I can. That does seem to be the trend. Is I'm moving more towards a digital environment for the bulk of the class. Like maybe starting next year, I might be completely online. And that's not something I ever wanted to do, ever. I've always thought online classes were a semi-joke. It always seemed to me, 10, 20 years ago that it was just a cop-out. It was an easy way to minimize your work, especially these online classes that they're not even classes, much less online classes, where a professor just says, oh, well, it's an online class, which means I posted the syllabus online and you go do it all yourself. Read these chapters online and then fill out this quiz online. And it's like, that's barely a course. To call that a revolutionary online is not just asinine, it's almost an embarrassment. So I, for decades, have said, oh, I'm not doing that. I mean, the technology's not there yet, and I'm not just going to assign, basically a self-guided course online and pretend like that's education. In the defense of people that do that, I'm sure there's some people that learn well or fine that way. I just wouldn't call it education, and I certainly wouldn't charge people money for it in a university setting where they're paying 10 or 20 grand a year or 30 grand a year. So anyway, I had always been hesitant to do any e-learning, digital courses stuff. But boy, the technology's really gotten there. I mean, just what we're doing right now. This didn't, I guess Skype existed 20 years ago, but all these other platforms are on there now. All these great course management systems are online now that are way better than they were even 10 years ago. All these great avenues for communication like this and 100 others are way better than they were even 5 years ago. And increasingly, and this is the major factor for me, increasingly humans are getting most of their content and interaction in a digital environment. And that's what's tipped the scales for me. Now, this generation of student, and you can go look up all the stats, this generation of student spends more time online than any humans, gets most of their information online, watches most of their TV and news online. So that's what actually started to push me. I started to look at this in terms of people still say they want to come to my class. Okay, when I survey all these students, I say, would you prefer that I taught this class live like I have for 20 years? Or if I pre-recorded it and did some things online? And overwhelmingly people say, oh, no, live. Live is the best. Boy, you're hilarious. I learned so much. I can ask questions. Everybody will say live. Okay. And then I'll teach a live class, and then a month into the class, only half the people. And then at that point, I'll ask again. And I did this experiment a few years ago, actually, with a class of like 2,500 people. I said, how many people want me to teach this class live? Everybody. Said, okay, how many people would consider watching it online? And like 10% people said, I'd watch it online. Okay, so I did a live lecture, and we live streamed it simultaneously, and then we recorded a live stream. And lo and behold, a whopping 4 weeks later, no one was coming to class. A small percentage was watching it live streaming online. I shouldn't say no one. Like 500 people would come to class. 500 people would watch it streaming online. And then everybody else would watch the video recording at their own pace whenever it was most convenient for them. And that's when I said, I'm going online. It's everybody says they want this, but they actually consume that. And I was so funny whenever I talked to, I was explaining this at a dinner party recently. And I said, yeah, everybody says they want this. They really are consuming it like that. And there was a doctor there. And he's like, of course. What are you talking? That ain't nothing new. He goes, everybody knows you're supposed to eat fruits and vegetables. Everybody knows that's a healthy diet. Everybody eats all this shit over here. That's the way humans work. And I was like, that makes sense. So I'm going online not because it makes my life easier, but I'm going online because that's where the eyes are, because that's where the future of eyes are. And if this is the way that people are consuming media, consuming content, consuming knowledge and learning, that's where I want to be. So that's why we've gone to e-learning, if you want to call it that. I'm just calling it being, digital, taking the classroom completely digital. But if I can wax poetic and futuristic for just a second, maintain interaction with students. Again, it's part of building community within the classroom, part of building the community within the university. I want to interact with the students. I think that some of them, if not all of them, want to interact with me. That's what they're here for. So in going online, what I'm going to do is pre-record a bunch of stuff, say kind of standard lectures that students can watch whenever they want. Have quizzing and testing online so they can do it in a paper-free environment, which we already do. Provide even more content and maybe more interactive stuff between students online. But I'm also going to continue to do actually stuff like this. Have online live office hours where I say, hey, I'm online. If you actually want to talk to me face-to-face in a digital environment, we can do this. But on top of that, I'm also going to reserve physical classrooms sporadically throughout the semester to do special events, to have special guest speakers, or if we get the King of Jordan to come again, then we'll, that, and again, that's building that whole community and interactions like, yeah, this is great. So I see that's the future of the classroom for me personally, and I think it's a model that others probably will pick up. It's called the flipped classroom model. You've probably heard of that. But not that it's been very tough to break that idea into the university system, again, basically on philosophical grounds, that you're coming to the university to hear this important person, me, speak. And so the whole idea of a flipped classroom is almost offensive to a lot of university professors because they're like, what? They're coming to see me and interact with me. I'm not going to flip the classroom and have them watch stuff online. And I understand that. But that old generation of professor they're quickly turning into dodos. I mean, they're not the extinct bird, not a dumb person, but they're turning into fossils. Let's say that. If they have no reason to change, they have no impetus to change, they're not going to be forced to change. They have tenure. And if people just refuse to change and refuse to accommodate new learning styles and new learning communication modes, then people just aren't going to go to their classes anymore. And that's happening already. That's probably happened in classes that you've taken. I mean, someone that's teaching like it's 1950, they may be a very smart person, but it's done. No one's going to go to their classes because anybody who's teaching a biology class circa 1950, that data can all be found online. Why the hell would you go listen to somebody talk about that live if they're not a great presenter?
Okay. So, well, how do you think then, can you train people to become better at communicating those ideas to their students?
Of course you can. Yeah, I mean, okay. Public speaking is a skill that you took courses on, probably most of the people who will listen to this, and professors should be, no different than anybody else if you're going to be a teaching professor. That's the other kind of almost bipolar nature of the academic world, is that you're supposed to be the greatest professor ever and the greatest researcher ever who gets billions of dollars of grants and writes genius papers and wins a Nobel Peace Prize. And that's almost an outdated model now, too. It's like, look, that's Superman. Nobody's doing that. You can't be the greatest teacher ever and win the Nobel Peace Prize and produce, 10 trillion hours of research on cancer. That divide has been problematic for a long time. And the people who are really passionate about research may not be that good in the classroom. To suggest they're supposed to be great at both is laughable. I am pretty good in the classroom. I don't have a passionate research drive. Actually, I do, but I don't want to. I have never been enamored with the idea of running around trying to find money and writing grants and stuff. So early on, I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing that. I'm going to focus on teaching. And if you don't like me, fine. You can fire me. I don't get paid that much anyway. So you're having increasing numbers of people, I think, who are specializing in one or the other. And I would argue that's not a bad thing. You may be the best biologist ever, but if you can't communicate with people, then your time is wasted in the classroom. Now, if you really are passionate about communicating with people, then we could probably train you. Then you should probably go take some classes on public speaking, or every university has, professional development courses. And so if you're really passionate, you really like getting in there with students, awesome. I support you 1,000%. But raise the skill level like you would do for anything else in your life. If you want to be good at something, you got to work at it.
Okay. Well, do you think then I guess what frustrates me in terms of potentially becoming a professor in the future is that most undergraduate universities, for me to become a professor, I need at least a master's, if not a PhD.
Oh, mostly PhD, yeah.
And that is going to take a lot of time. But if I can learn something, for example, if I learn something in an intro course and I help all my friends teach it, then I teach it to all my friends in a way that's better than a lot of the professors that do it, because they're not communicating in a way that's accessible to intro students, then why, after I'm done with school, can't I have some sort of way to, I guess, show that? There are portfolios in the tech industry. You can do a portfolio. You can be in high school if you have an impressive portfolio, they'll hire you right off the bat. So, do you think there's something that could be like that to increase the number of professors who are focused on student learning versus research, or creating that divide in a way that lets people who are interested in research explore that, lets people who are interested in teaching explore that, and try to collaborate with each other?
Yeah, I think it's mostly in today, speaking of the whole system nationwide, the way you go about stuff like that is that you choose where you want to work, because there are teaching universities and there are research universities. At the teaching universities, and most of them are private, I'm pretty sure, but I'm not swearing to anything. Community colleges are teaching universities, and a lot of private schools are teaching universities, where their focus is on enriching the student. If that's what you're passionate about, and maybe you don't want to go get a PhD, that would be. And again, in today's world, you would focus on trying to get hired at one of those places if that's what you're passionate about. And obviously, if you're passionate research, you go to a Research One institute and try to get hired there. So things are in place for that to happen already, but it's up to you as the potential hire to find the place that's right for you. Having said that, the problem goes back to what I was just raging about. Even at the Research One institutes now, they still have this concept that you're supposed to be a great teacher, even if you're not into it, and you have to do it, whether you're into it or not as well. And teaching college classes, here's a delicious irony of life. Teaching at a university, teaching a class on anything at a university, is possibly the only place anywhere on the planet that you can get a job doing something you're not trained for at all. No college professors are trained to teach classes. None of us have to get a degree in education. None of us have to take any classes, myself included. I'm pointing the finger at myself too. I didn't have to get any training to go stand in front of people and start talking. Now, I happen to be pretty decent at it. I hope, at least that's what people keep telling me.
Yep.
So, I've gotten away with it, but people who stink at it, there's no standards, there's nothing. Even to go teach as a substitute teacher at high school, you have to get some sort of 1 or 2 year educational degree in order to do that. That's not true at the university system, and maybe that's something else we need to talk about is, yes, maybe everybody has to get trained in some sort of minimal standards of teaching before you go into the classroom. The reason that this is going to have to change for university professors is exactly what you were just alluding to. Is you said, what if I'm really awesome at teaching this certain physics concept in introductory physics, and everyone in the class ends up coming to me because I can do it better than the professor, even though I'm just a student. What you're going to see evolve in the future, and it's already starting, is people just like you or me who are really good at something, and we just develop our own little mini course. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to put this online. I'm just going to stream this free on YouTube. That's how Khan Academy started, if you know about Khan Academy. Now a multi-billion-dollar venture that's free. So for users, I'm pretty sure it's still free. And there's this one called Skillshare that I got invited to participate in, and I did it just for fun. I said, I want to see what this is all about. Skillshare is out of New York. It's only probably 2 years old, and it's for anybody. It's for anybody. If you're good at teaching something, then you are sharing your skill. And so I knew one of the founders, or a friend of one of the founders, who said, hey, Boyer, go do this because you're really good at it and they need content. I said, sure, I'll just do it for fun. So I developed like a 10-hour course on wine just for fun. It's just intro for fun. Here's some knowledge. They had stuff on there as simplistic as like how to make the perfect meatball, how to do your own taxes by yourself, how to do introductory programming for video games. That's just Khan Academy and Skillshare. That's just 2. There's probably 1,000 other ones out there like that. And the market, people start producing really great content, and they in one module or one lesson or 1 hour can teach people introductory physics better than the college professor can, and it's free. That's a game changer. The system is going to have to respond content, or again, some sort of value added in the classroom that's more than just some old dude talking to you about physics.
Okay, so do you think that an overhaul like that, something that's going to be able to adapt to that in a university setting, is possible?
I don't think it's so much a question of it's possible. It has to happen. It's kind of like, is it possible to breathe air? Well, I'm going to go because you're going to do it. It's going to. You can hold your breath, but eventually you're going to breathe air, and so you can suggest that you're going to. Harvard will never change. That's fine. The world will change around you, and you'll figure it out. You're not going to be able to hold your breath forever. The universities already have held their breath for a fairly long time. They're treading water well while holding their breath. But everybody knows the writing's on the wall. Technology, especially communications and the internet, have so revolutionized all major fields. Think about how much different economics is, trading stocks, physics. You kind of go across the board and see how technology has radically transformed all these industries in the last 10 years. And higher education, actually all education, is like the last to go. It's like the last thing. It's still kind of the holdout. And I always give this example, and I'm sure I stole this from some other better speaker. But if you were to go back in time 500 years and pick 100 different people from 100 different professions and pull them all forward 500 years into the 21st century and then pair them up with their prospective people in today's world. So you had a baker from, 15th century England, and you put him in with a baker here in town. And you took a physicist from 500 years ago and put him in with everybody across the board would say, whoa, wow, this is so different. Look how much crazier this is. What's this device here and these tools? And wow, this is so different than the way we used to do things 500 years ago, except for the academic. If you brought a professor back from 500 years ago, he would walk into a classroom, some of them still with chalkboards, and say, yep, I can teach right now. What are you teaching? I can teach. This is exactly the way we used to do it. This is great. So that's why I'm suggesting we're kind of the last to go. Education's going to be reinvented. It's already starting, and it's inevitable, like breathing air. So it's going to happen, and it's incrementally starting to hit. Overhaul seems like too big of a term to happen. But once one or two universities start to implement fairly significant changes that seem to work, then everybody else will fall in line.
Okay. So I took a look at one of your syllabi, and you talked a little bit about the flipped classroom and also the approach to grading. Do you think that is the future in terms of the way you described it made complete sense to me. You start out with an A, and then you get points taken away from you. So why not give students as many opportunities as possible to prove that they have an understanding of the coursework? Do you think that promotes? Do you think that promotes a sense of maybe students aren't being responsible, or I don't really know an argument against that. I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think of some sort of argument against it.
Most of the people who argue against it are people who are all about standardization. So they say if you allow people to take 100 different tests to get points, they won't learn anything. I want to ask them 10 questions, and I will keep beating them over the head till they get the 10 questions right. And again, it's almost a difference of philosophy. It's like, yeah, I guess. But once you go down that path of I want students to know these exact things, then you've just standardized your course, you've standardized your test, and people can cheat those things day in and day out. The systems are so easy to game with standardization. So easy. And then you compound that by the old farts, for lack of a better term, the old farts who are going to teach the same information that they did from 10 or 20 years ago, and using the same test from 10 or 20 years ago, that's all standardized, rote information that they want people to know these exact things. They're so far behind the technological times, they have no idea how this young generation can cheat in a blink of an eye to game all of their systems instantaneously. I actually understand the cheater's mind. I understand the way that students think about it, and it's a quite practical way to think about it. Why would I spend 10 hours doing something I can do in 10 seconds? I mean, that's a pretty smart way to think. So why would I learn all if this Professor X, actually that's a bad one, that's X-Men. If Professor M is simply wants me to know these 10 pieces of facts, not a problem. I'll learn those with minimal amount of effort that I can and spit it back to them in a minimal amount of effort. And I'm done. I get my grade and I can go on to something else. This generational divide, these old folks have no idea how much scamming is going on, not even behind their back, in front of their faces. And I bring this up because we just had something just in the local newspaper, I think it was just a week or two ago. And I'm going to screw up the story, but it doesn't matter. It's the sentiment of the story that counts. And I think it was just, the student newspaper here. It was reported that the physics department suspended all of their testing for a week because they found out that some students had acquired old tests online and were sharing them for this year's physics test. And me and my assistant, because we're big into gaming systems and put this point system and doing different stuff online, I died laughing. I'm like, are you kidding me? They just found out that students have copies of the old test. There are whole online systems for sharing tests nationwide. You know this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Everyone in your generation and younger is like, well, of course, I can find any test from any professor. I can find tests from professors at Harvard right now online. Easy. Drop. And that's the generational divide. The physics department here just figured that out. And we're like, wow. Okay. Yes, every written test, every paper test, every professor has ever given is already accessible. I mean, they should all know this. I don't know how I should preach this to the masses, but it's like, if you've written it down and you've handed it out 20 years ago, someone has access to it right now. That's modern technology, man. So this divide has to be tightened up. People got to figure out better ways to do it. And that brings me to the heart of your question, which is, do I believe that the flipped classroom and the flipped syllabus are the future? Yeah, I do. I call it the flipped syllabus. I made that term up. I stole that. I stole that or modified it from the flipped classroom. I call it the flipped syllabus. And it's like, no, I'm more passionate about you either doing one of two things: understanding the information and knowledge inside and out, being able to give that back to me in a number of different critical ways, as best I can. Yes, I do some true, false, and multiple choice, but I do it in such a way as to try to get at different types of knowledge in different angles. So you kind of have to get it. You do that, or you just work your ass off. And if you, after taking 1,000 tests on Ukrainian current events, still don't understand what the hell is going on, but you have read 1,000 papers because I made you and watched 1,000 videos and taken 1,000 quizzes, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say, yes, you've earned some points for that too. You've put in some time. Even if you still quite haven't completely got the concept, I'm going to give you some points for that. There are those that say that's wrong because they still don't get the concept, so it's not right. But, I'm a professor. I'm a teacher. What else can I do? I've tried, and this works for the mass number of students, by the way. Most people get it. After several different types of knowledge transfer, be it video or readings or quizzes, they get what's going on in the Ukraine. They get what I'm trying to teach. There are those that never will or will remain confused. I'm doing my best. I'm not suggesting this is a 100% foolproof system, but I think it works better for the majority than the old school way does.
Okay. Have you gotten feedback from professors, like after your intro courses? Feedback from professors who teach the higher level courses and, say, hey, the students that took your classes are coming in with more knowledge or some sort of... Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
What do you call it? What do you call the type of knowledge that's not measured?
Qualitative?
Yes. Well, there's actually a nicer word for it too. It's more folksy, more kind of homespun. Just people just tell you this. It's that type of knowledge. But yeah, it's more qualitative than quantitative. And it's from even professors from other departments. Right across studies major, and they always say, yeah, we love getting your students in there because they always know a lot more about what's going on, and they all raise their hands and say, yeah, I learned that Borders class already. So that's always a nice supportive thing. And I get notes from parents saying, "Wow, Jimmy came up for Thanksgiving and was schooling us on what was going on in Ukraine, and he learned so much, and now he's passionate about this." And those are always nice ones to get. When you get them from parents, to me, that's like the top tier of compliment, because they're the ones flipping the bill, so they feel like they're getting their money's worth, and they know their child better, their kid better than I'm ever going to know, or anybody at this university is going to know. So when I get a note from a parent that says, "Wow, you had an impact on my kid," I'm like, "Damn, all right, that's a win. Put that one in the win column." But we also get a lot of notes, personalized notes from students themselves, even 5 and 10 years later, saying, "Hey, Professor Boyd, just wanted to give you a shout out. I took your class 10 years ago, and now I'm a foreign diplomat in the UAE." And I'm like, "Whoa, that's cool." So a lot of data, evidence like that, supportive evidence, but we have the standard kind of qualitative stuff from end of semester assessments, student assessment, which I've never quite, frankly, read a whole lot into, because I'm an amiable guy. People think I'm goofy or funny, so that has a tendency to skew results. People are like, "This guy was awesome," and so I try not to listen too much to the compliments, or that we would have 80 or 90% approval rating. That's nice. At the same time, I really don't listen to a lot of folks who are like, "He was the devil's spawn. This is the worst class ever." I mean, people all bring different viewpoints to the class, so we try to ask specific questions. Not so much, "Did you like Boyer? Did you like the class?" I try to ask more specific things like, "Hey, what did you think about this? Did you learn something from that particular assignment? Did you like online office hours? Is that a good use of your time?" We try to collect, just piece by piece, different types of data like that. And all of those have come out, 80% plus positive for virtually all the stuff we've experimented with.
Excellent. Okay, well, that was. I was trying to get to the heart of, for someone in a younger generation who's trying to break into this system and potentially help change it. Just having that data, having some sort of data, even if it's qualitative, doesn't matter if it's qualitative or quantitative, to be able to back that up and say, "Hey, this is what's happening in my class." You can, you have all different kinds of research, but I'm seeing this on a day-to-day basis, and my students are doing well, and I'm getting all this feedback. I think that seems to be one of the first steps in terms of just trying to get them to change the mindset, because sometimes they just don't listen to individuals. They need data. They need some sort of structured.
Oh no, the detractors to any sort of change whatsoever, the detractors of me personally, or the detractors of this flipped syllabus. That's that crew of people, and I try to keep an open mind. I'm not going to make fun of anybody, but that crew of people is all like, "Evidence, we need 1 million studies." And the people who have attacked me personally have said, "He has no evidence to corroborate that. He hasn't tested to see if doing Twitter actually gets people to think critically. Do you have any evidence that people think critically?" And I'm like, dudes, this technology's been around for like 2 years. What do you want? And it's going to change in the next 6 months. What do you want to test? Do you want me? How am I supposed to test that people 20 years from now have better knowledge because of my course? How do you test that? What am I going to go, do a 30-year study on people? By the time you have the evidence in today's world, it's wildly outdated and useless. And 20 years from now, I'm not going to be teaching the same way. Nobody is. So I think technology has accelerated the window for a lot of this stuff. And old school, that like you need a 5-year study to show that you should use that in the classroom. And I'm like, dude, this won't exist in 5 years. What are you talking about? This technology is going to change. What we have tried to do, specifically in the last 5 years, is to completely experiment with a lot of these things. I'm not pretending like I know. I'm not pretending like they all work great. I said from the get-go, I've been on like first generation of Facebook and first generation of Twitter, because I surround myself by smart people who know the next hot thing coming. And so when I look at these cool new gadgets and systems, my mind's always like, how can I use this to teach? What can I do to engage students using this thing? Something like Twitter. I still make fun of Twitter. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing ever. 140 characters? What the hell? Who dreamt this up? And then I'm like, okay, that's cool. How can we, if this is what is going to be the future, how can we use this to in pictures of their dessert and sharing it with each other? So that's always been my mission, knowing full well this system may crash and burn in 6 months. This may be completely worthless. What we do with, even if the system survives, what we do with it may be a complete failure. So we experiment openly and wholeheartedly admit that this is mostly experimentation, and we kind of rely on mostly gut instinct to see how it's going. And we'll just ask students, hey, did you learn anything from this? What do you think about this? Or from a scale of 1 to 10, you think this was a good exercise or was just kind of a whatever exercise? I'm just going to ask the people themselves, the users, aka the students, for their input to see how they're learning best. What worked? What didn't? What did they think was stupid? Because if a student thinks that an exercise is stupid, then they're not learning from it, and they're probably right. I mean, if it's not intriguing or engaging enough for the students themselves to stick with it and even hint that it's good, then it's probably not the way to go. At least not the way that I was using it.
Okay. I mean, I think that's what excites younger people who eventually do want to teach or participate in education in some way. The idea that it's this, you can try these different things and have that history of, okay, I've done this thing and I know this works, so I'll incorporate it into the next course, but let's try new things, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not it doesn't, from all the examples that I've seen, it's not at the expense of the student learning process. So it usually encourages it and creates kind of like a tick where students want to keep doing that in all their other classes too. They're thirsty for that because they don't get it enough right now.
I mean, I think so. Having said that, this is maybe this is a nice closer for you, but this is like a terribly exciting time to be in education. It's awesome. And I've made fun of it's clunky and it's conservative and it doesn't want to change and tenure kind of locks things in. But it's a great time to be in education. Just think for 1 millisecond that we are on the cusp. We are simply on the cusp of what ebooks is going to do. We haven't even begun to produce great educational content with ebooks. Now, some people are dabbling with it. Some publishers are scrambling to try to figure out the next generation. And I already am kind of a futurist for that. I'm like, oh man, I already see holograms coming out of books and showing you shit. I mean, it's going to be awesome, and we're just starting it. And into the World Knowledge Network is what I'm calling it, not the World Wide Web. To me, the most exciting thing about the 21st century is that I, right this second, can communicate with someone in live time, nuclear physics, and one in South Africa, and an interior design expert in Rio de Janeiro, and an interior design expert in Helsinki, Finland, and tie them into my classroom lifetime and talk about what they know in their different countries and how their styles change. I mean, we are on the cusp of connecting all the world's minds into a single kind of forum and it's mostly exciting for education, not for all of the crap people do on the internet. It's a great time to be a professor. It's great.
I mean, absolutely. Even from the student's perspective, recently I've just begun to take a more intentional approach about the way I use technology. Not just using it, I'll use it to waste time, or I'll use it to maybe just look through things 'cause I'm bored. But there's really no excuse to be bored on the internet. There's so much information out there.
So much. Whatever you're interested in, it's out there. I'm actually going to start designing exercises and assignments in class because I want people to. I think one of the great things about the university system and bringing people together in a tangible, real-world environment is to build what I call their Rolodex. Build your Rolodex of contacts. You should not be hanging out in a university for 4 years and walk out with the same friends you walked in with. The 20 white kids who look just like you, who you hung out with the whole time in high school. You're going to tell me you're going to have that same clique of people walking out of college? Then you have wasted your time. You need to get out there and connect with people all over the world. And then the assignment I'm going to make for class is, by the end of class, you need to use 5 new friends somewhere on the globe that you have interacted with, that you have talked with someone in Pakistan about what's going on in the streets, politically, and you've talked to somebody in China about what's happening there economically, and you've talked to somebody in Australia about what's happening there climatically, and I'm going to have the assignment that they can do anything they want. Again, it's kind of open syllabus, so flipped syllabus. Do whatever you want, because the main goal here is to get you engaged in the globe and with other people in other places. I think if you made 5 new friends a year from 5 different countries while the whole time you were an undergraduate, think about the power, that the position of power that puts you in, walking out with a degree and you know people all over the globe. And I've been encouraging people in different fields, not just geography, because I'm a very generalist, by the way. I'm a generalist approach to everything, and I'm about general knowledge. But I'm even, telling professor types who are, civil engineers, or I keep coming back to interior design. I don't know why. Or architects. You should have your peeps know 50 other architects in the world before they graduate, and not just famous people. They should know real students like themselves in other parts of the planet. It's called building a network. It's almost comical. We have students going to university for 4 years or 6, getting multiple degrees, coming out $50,000 or $100,000 in debt, and they're supposed to have gained this knowledge to get them a job. And here's the comical part: we wait till they're seniors in their senior year to have a job fair. WTF? Well, what is that all about? That is like not even 19th century. That's like 15th century. It's like joining a guild or something. Okay, well, I had my guild papers. I'm an engineer now. I got my guild paper, so I can join the club. And here we're going to put you in a room with some other guild members. Is that how today's world's work? I mean, even the employers still buy into to be in a room with, I'll stick with civil engineering. Here's 20 engineering companies that are going to invite in 300 civil engineering seniors who all have exactly the same resume. They've all taken exactly the same class. What is that? What is that even supposed to achieve for anybody? So to me, it's much better to say, oh, you're a senior and you actually know and have contacts all over the globe. You should have contacts with companies before you're even a senior. You don't wait until the end game to go try to find a job. This is now a whole idea of like, you need to network yourself out there and brand yourself if you really want to get into marketing. People need to know you, and you need to know people long before you walk out the door and or holding up your guild card trying to get a job. That's just personal opinion and assignments.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, it clicks with me. I would say even something like that is more on the, even if it's not a generalizable approach, but you could do something like an honors thesis. Why do you have to wait till senior year to do something like that? You have to, senior year is the first time you choose something you're interested in and you do research on it. Like that doesn't make sense to me. It seems that you should be able to do that, not even just at the start of college. That's part of the wonderful thing about college is that you have all those facilities, but you should be able to start doing that in high school. This is a topic that I'm interested in, so why can't I do research on it? Why can't I at least talk with people who do research on it and learn from them? I don't have access to all these things. And this is part of what I'm trying to do with Meet Your Professors is these people that I'm talking to, they're going to have knowledge about so many different topics. I'm sure the students will be able to tell just from this conversation, just from this hour-long conversation, that people who study things for a long time know a lot of shit. And even if they don't necessarily present it in an accessible way, I want to try to be able to ask those questions in a way that will resonate with students. And so create that accessibility through this medium. It obviously wasn't difficult with you because you already focus on that. And that was part of why I was interested in interviewing you and learning from those strategies and trying to even incorporate that in interviews later on.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I'm gonna stop the recording process, but I still have a couple of questions if you have a little bit